Have you ever considered that maybe your life could be an epic story? Maybe even a film or a novel? I believe it's possible because we are all on a heroic journey of the soul. I'm Dr. DaeEss, and I am the Managing Director of Make Your Mark Global. I help luminaries, coaches, doctors, and healers share their message with a global audience through the media. When people ask me how I became a confident storyteller, I always smile because my journey was not a straight line. Like so many people, I had the credentials, the visibility, the stage, but not the sovereignty. I had the spotlight, but not the freedom to speak my truth. You may know me from my years as the face of Discovery Health Channel, or my time on Oprah, or from the many, many books and anthologies that I've published with hundreds of authors. Those are the shiny parts of the story, the highlight reel. But what most people don't know is, behind the spotlight, I was struggling with something very real: authenticity. I had this big brand with millions of people watching me on TV, but I wasn't allowed to talk about acupuncture or breath work or nutrition, the things that I knew could truly change lives. And that conflict created this deep sense of dissonance. I was visible, but I didn't feel seen. I was performing a brand, not living my truth. And that's why storytelling isn't just something I teach, it's something I live. Because until I found the courage to speak from the scar and not the script, I was just performing success. I wasn't embodying my message. When I finally began to share my story authentically and not just the polished version, the real turning points like the near-death out-of-body experience that cracked me open, the years of depression that I lived with, the multiple reinventions, when I started sharing that, that's when everything shifted. Everything changed the moment that I stopped trying to impress and started telling the truth. That was the moment that I stopped presenting all the little facts and figures and became a luminary with a message. So today, I want to talk with you about storytelling as a path of power, and not just any storytelling, the heroine's journey. Because whether you're an author, a coach, a healer, or a leader, your story is the bridge. It's the thing that turns your scars into medicine and your experience into impact. So you may have heard that when I got my first big media break at Discovery Health Channel, I thought I would be stepping into my dream. I earned the title as America's Empowerment Doctor. I was on TV every day. People knew my name, my face, and my voice. And from the outside, it looked like I had made it. But here's what no one saw. It was an inauthentic brand. Behind the scenes, I was told what I could and could not say. I had this big, beautiful wellness center where I was working with energy medicine, acupuncture, meditation, breathwork, trauma healing, the very things that were transforming people's lives. But when I wanted to talk about it on air, I was told, that's too fringe, that's too woo-woo, stick to the scripts. So there I was, on national TV, delivering health advice every day, while silencing parts of myself, silencing my truth. And then I got a call that changed my life. As every heroine's journey begins, it started with a call. In this case, it was from the communications director at Discovery Health Channel, because Oprah Winfrey called to see if they could get some footage to use in one of her upcoming shows. Now, this was a time when the whole country was shaken because the singer Luther Vandross, a dear friend of Oprah's, had just suffered a stroke due to type 2 diabetes. He had been on her show and talked about his diabetes and his weight loss journey. And Oprah was so moved that she wanted to show people what really happens in the body when you have a stroke or high blood pressure or diabetes. Now, not only did Oprah's producers call the network for footage, they also wanted to see if we had a recommendation for a doctor who could speak directly to the Black population in America. Because unfortunately, many Black people and African Americans had a habit of calling type 2 diabetes a little sugar. I mean, it almost sounds harmless, right? But of course, having extra sugar in your bloodstream is not a good thing. It can lead to diabetes, heart disease, even Alzheimer's. So Oprah wanted a physician who could speak to this community with authority and care. And in that moment, I was called to step out of my ordinary world of being a doc in the box at Discovery and into something bigger. When I started working at Discovery Channel, I wanted to be on TV. I had always been a performer. I'd done the school news as a teenager, community theater, performing on television. So it felt very natural to play the role of a doctor on TV. But I wasn't really tuning into what made me unique as a healer and a person. Now, that very first time that I got to be on the Oprah show, I was there with Patti LaBelle, who was also a good friend of Oprah and Luther Vandross. And Patti also has type 2 diabetes. But as you can see in this clip, I was in a very boxy suit, all buttoned up. Even though I was sharing a unique way to describe what happens in the body with excess blood sugar, I was very much trying to stick to my talking points. And when we wrapped up, Oprah grabbed my hand and Bob Green, her trainer, who was also on the show with us, and pulled us into the control room. She thanked me for coming on the show, for giving these insights and tips, and I was over the moon. I had been so nervous sitting there with two icons, Patti LaBelle and Oprah Winfrey. So in a matter of weeks, I went from that very buttoned up, overly serious appearance on Oprah to receiving another call. This time, Oprah's producers didn't go through Discovery Channel. They called me directly at my wellness center. Oprah wanted to do a return episode about how we can use nutrition to overcome or prevent things like diabetes, which is one of my specialties. So they flew into the DC area. They shot with me at a supermarket and in my wellness center. If you've seen the clip, I described the good, the bad, and the ugly fats and sugars. But because they were on my territory, I felt more comfortable being my authentic self. So if you see the clip of me the second time I was on Oprah, I was much more at ease and stepping closer to authenticity. So maybe now you understand how this created a war inside me. On the one hand, I was building a multi-million-dollar brand, even appearing on Oprah. But on the other hand, I felt trapped. I had built this cage around myself. It looked shiny, but it was still a cage. And it's that dissonance that got so intense that when I came to the French Riviera in 2005, I actually prayed for my life to end. That's how unbearable it felt to keep living a story that wasn't mine. At that moment, that breaking point, that was also the beginning of my heroine's journey. Because every heroine's journey starts the same way, with a call to leave the old life behind and cross the threshold into the unknown. So, as you may know, in that ego death, out-of-body experience in 2005, I saw myself in the future, walking along the beach in France with a child. And not long after that vision came true, I conceived. And after leaving Discovery Channel, another TV network invited me to document my pregnancy. And that became a 4-part series called Simple Steps to a Balanced Natural Pregnancy, which aired nationwide in the US and now streams online on Gaia. In that project, I wasn't just performing, I was beginning to share more of my real life, my wellness center, and my philosophy. Now, each of these tests and trials and mentors and allies pushed me closer to my authentic voice. I had to release the perfectionism and let people see me, not just the polished or scripted version. And I'll be honest, it was never my mission to put all of my private life out there, like in my TED Talks. That wasn't my intention. Now, I will share more about that first TED Talk, but just know that this was a step-by-step process where I learned to share my story and to reframe how I saw myself. That's how I found my freedom, and I truly began to embody authenticity. And if you're wondering how to make this real in your business, that's exactly what we do inside the Global Impact Path. It's my 3-month program. I help you find and trust your voice, overcome any blocks to your brilliance. I help you craft your turning point story that creates instant resonance and trust. And then we help you shape an authentic personal brand that feels like you, not a performance. And from there, we translate your lived wisdom into a simple, teachable framework so that your audience knows what you stand for and why you are the guide they've been looking for. Sound good? So, why am I telling you all of this? Because my story isn't just about TV or Oprah or documentaries. It's about the journey that we all go through when we feel that tension between the life we're told to live and the truth that's burning inside of us. Every heroine's journey begins with a call to step out of the old story. But after that call, there's always a test, a moment where you have to decide, will I keep hiding or will I dare to rise up and speak my truth? And here's what I discovered. The very act of telling your story can be the bridge to freedom. Story is how you dissolve perfectionism. It's how you claim your power. It's how you magnetize the right opportunities. Storytelling isn't a nice to have. It's the key to becoming visible, trusted, and valued. And that's why today I'm sharing something very practical with you. Because storytelling isn't just about having a past. It's about how you use it to shape your future. Every time I leaned into authenticity, new doors opened. Opportunities came that were much more aligned, more joyful, and more impactful. So I'm going to start off with the 3 keys to becoming a powerful, authentic storyteller. These are the same keys that I used to transform from that buttoned-up TV doctor into a global luminary with talks, books, and a brand that finally feels aligned with my soul. These are the same keys that help me move from that scripted TV talking points to being on stages with TED Talks, best-selling books, and even building a movement. And yes, these are the same keys I now teach my clients so that they can step across that threshold into visibility and impact without burning out. All right, so I want to walk you through them so you can begin to see how your own story can become the bridge to your next level of income, impact, and influence. The first key to becoming a powerful, authentic storyteller is to adopt a growth mindset. What do I mean by that? Storytelling is not something you're either magically good at or forever bad at. It's a skill that you develop over time. It's a practice. And like any practice, the first attempts may feel awkward, messy, or even not good enough. But that's how you grow. When I first stepped on camera at Discovery Health Channel, trust me, it wasn't natural. I was stiff, scripted, trying to please everyone. Even that first time on Oprah that I showed you. I was buttoned up in that boxy suit, trying to get everything right. But it was those imperfect reps that gave me the courage and confidence to keep going. You saw this by the time Oprah's team came back and filmed at my wellness center. I was more at ease, more myself. Not perfect, but more authentic. And here's the thing, in 2025 and beyond, this matters more than ever. AI can generate polished copy, it can spit out perfect sentences, but it cannot walk through the fire of your lived experience. AI can't stumble and learn and rise again like you can. Your audience doesn't want perfection. They want progress. They want the realness of someone who's willing to show up, even imperfectly, to grow in public. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not ready or I'm not polished enough, I want you to reframe that. Your job is not to be flawless. Your job is to take that first step, to share in community, to get feed forward, to evolve. That's what I did. That's what every storyteller does. Adopting a growth mindset frees you from the prison of perfectionism, and it opens the door to resonance. Because people don't fall in love with your polish. They fall in love with your willingness to grow. And know this, even in your imperfection, your authentic, vulnerable truth can still transform lives. My first TED Talk, the one with 3.5 million views, that wasn't exactly my very best TED Talk ever. But the outpouring of comments, emails, and follow-on requests proved that it struck a chord with people. People said they saw themselves in my story, and they felt inspired to make changes in their own lives. Now here's the second key. Trust that your voice is needed. Here's the fear that I hear so often. People say, well, there are already so many people saying what I want to say. Who am I to add to the mix? And I get it. I actually felt that way too. In my case, while I was working at Discovery Channel as spokesperson and medical director, I delivered a keynote speech on the 5 keys to live heart healthy. After that keynote, I went back to Discovery and started typing it up as a blog. At the time, we actually had to do our own HTML coding, right? And sometimes people would check it to see if I got everything right, you know? I remember as I was typing up this blog, I could feel this presence behind me. It was one of our coworkers named Rita. She was looking over my shoulder. I thought she was going to tell me that I'd missed some HTML tag, but no, she said, "That's a book." And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is my blog from my keynote speech. She said, "That's a book." She told me that before she came to television, she used to work in publishing. And she said, "I can show you how that 5-step plan could become a book." My mind was blown. Now, first off, I said, who would want to read a book by me? I mean, at that time in the early 2000s, Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Christiane Northrup, they were all popular. I'm like, who would want to read a book when I'm saying kind of the same things that most doctors know about how to be healthy? Rita told me something that has stuck with me, and I tell it to all of my clients and students. She said this, "It's true, there may be other voices out there that are sharing a similar message, but they're not sharing it in your voice, and they're not bringing together your unique combination of skills and talents and the way you deliver it." Think about it. The reality is, if people were exploring business, finance, health, or even romance, people don't stop after they read one good book or watch one good TED Talk. When we are in need of transformation in our personal or professional life, our health, our relationship, our finances, our family, we tend to binge. We get multiple books and multiple opinions. So trust that your voice is needed. Because even if there are other coaches or healers or doctors out there sharing a similar message, they are not sharing it in your voice. And the usual suspects out there may not actually resonate with people like you will resonate with people. And the other thing is, people often need to hear things repeatedly and in different styles and tones. Like, we thrive off of repetition and variety when we're learning something new. So don't be worried that someone else has already done a keynote or TED Talk or published a book in a similar theme to yours. Because guess what? I did publish that 5-step plan in this, my first book, The Pennington Plan, 5 Simple Steps for Achieving Vibrant Health, Emotional Well-Being, and Spiritual Growth. And guess who showed up to provide testimonials? I don't know if you can see it. Dr. Wayne Dyer and Christiane Northrup. Yep, it happened. And that's the thing about storytelling. Even if the message has been spoken 100 times, it hasn't been spoken in your voice, through your lens, through your unique blend of scars and breakthroughs and insights. And sometimes your way of saying it is the exact way someone out there has been waiting to hear it. So stop asking, who am I to speak? And start asking, who am I not to? Because your silence doesn't serve anyone. And your courage to speak might just be the medicine someone else needs. Inside the Global Impact Path, we build the confidence and the story muscles so your voice lands and your brand matches your truth. That's how you move from I'm good at what I do to people recognize and share my work. So stay tuned. The Global Impact Path is coming next month. The third key to becoming an impactful storyteller is trust that your audience is waiting. One of the biggest doubts that I hear over and over, I've already said it, who am I to share this story? There's so many people talking about the topic. And that voice actually crept back in for me too. When I published my book, The Orgasm Prescription for Women, I knew that there were already countless books on sexual health, but as an integrative physician with training in Chinese medicine, women's empowerment, and positive psychology, I had a different voice, my own. And you know what happened? I received message after message from women saying, for the first time in my life, I'm experiencing real pleasure. Thank you. That's the power of sharing your expertise. Yes, the bookstores were already full. The internet was already crowded. But my way of telling the story and explaining reached women who had been waiting for this. And the same is true for you. Your voice, your wounds, your presence, your success. No one else carries those. And that's exactly why your audience is waiting for you. Think about it. How many personal development books exist? How many TED Talks, podcasts, YouTube channels? And yet, someone is waiting to hear your story told your way because you're the only one they'll resonate with. That is why my first TED Talk went viral. Not because it was perfect, because it wasn't. It was tender, it was raw, it was vulnerable, and yet millions of people saw themselves in it. And so remember, here in 2025 and beyond, AI can scrape the internet and regurgitate every framework ever written, but it cannot channel your lived experience. It cannot carry the energetic transmission of your pain, your growth, your triumph. Your audience doesn't just want information, they want resonance. They want to feel your heart, your voice, and your frequency. And here's the deeper truth. We are living through what I call a global dark night of the ego. People everywhere are questioning their worth, their voice, their impact. Your story isn't just personal medicine, it's collective medicine. Every time you speak authentically, that authenticity shines through. Every time you do that, you give other people permission to rise as well. So remember, if you feel the nudge to share your story, it's not random. It's a calling. It's a signal that someone, somewhere, is already waiting to hear it. Your only job? Trust the call. Trust that your audience is out there. And then take the next step to share, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect, because someone is ready to shift the moment they hear you. You'll also be able to join me live on Zoom October 2nd and October 9th for a masterclass on how to take your voice, your vision, and your mission global. I'll map this path to global visibility and show you some more real examples that you can model to increase your income and impact. You'll be able to save your seat. The link is in the description. Check it out. So, I promised that I would share a bit about this heroine's journey. The first time I learned about the hero's journey or the heroine's journey was over 30 years ago as an undergrad at Georgia State University. I was sitting in a film class reading Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. In that book, Joseph described the monomyth. It's the universal story structure that shows up across cultures and time. Filmmakers have been using it ever since. Think Star Wars, Harry Potter, and one of my favorites, The Matrix. So I want to show you how The Matrix follows this arc and how my own life and yours have continued to unfold according to the heroine's journey. All right? It's cool stuff. So, the way that Joseph Campbell described the 4 parts of the hero's journey begins with the call to adventure. This is when you're summoned out of the ordinary into something bigger. For me, that was my Oprah moment. I was at the Discovery Channel in my ordinary world when her producers called looking for footage and a doctor who could speak about diabetes. That catapulted me into a whole new world. Part 2 is initiation. It's crossing the threshold into the unknown, meeting mentors and allies, facing tests and trials that force you to grow, to level up. Then comes transformation, going through a major ordeal, a crucible moment that changes you forever. And then there's the return, coming back to the everyday world, but as a new being. Sometimes it's literally like a resurrection. You don't return as who you were. You return with medicine, wisdom, and gifts to share. So, why does the hero's journey matter? Why tell stories following the heroine's journey? Because stories bypass the mind and speak directly to the heart, and may even touch the soul. Since the beginning of time, humans have learned through myths and parables. And when you frame your life this way, you don't just entertain your audience, you transform them, and you transform yourself. All of my mentoring programs mirror the heroine's journey. Now, if you'd like a quick diagnostic to find out where are you in your heroic journey, I invite you to take our Global Impact Scorecard. This is going to give you the opportunity to find out which archetype you are. Are you a path breaker, emerging authority, rising luminary, or legacy architect? The Global Impact Scorecard also highlights the moves that will shift your income and visibility the fastest. You'll also get personalized suggestions right along the way of how you can really level up. So the link to the Global Impact Scorecard is in the description. And you'll also get it if you've already signed up for replay emails. All right, so let's dive into the heroine's journey and use the Matrix as an example. This one, I bet, is going to resonate with a lot of folks. All right, so we begin in the ordinary world where Neo, a computer hacker, literally falls asleep at his desk. And suddenly, his screen lights up. Wake up, Neo. The Matrix has you. Follow the white rabbit. Then there's a knock at the door, and the girl standing there literally has a white rabbit tattoo. That's the call. So I want you to type into the chat, What's a moment in your life when you felt the nudge to do something bigger, even if you didn't know what it was or you didn't feel ready? Type that in the chat and we'll check in a bit. Now, the next day, Neo's at work and he gets a package delivered and it starts to ring. It's literally a call from Morpheus. He's the master hacker that Neo had been searching for. And this call to adventure is inviting Neo to truly leave that ordinary world and step out onto the path. But in many of our heroic journeys, we say no. Even though we're destined to become this heroine, we can still say no and refuse the call. So even as Morpheus was directing Neo on the phone, telling him to turn here, turn there, to get out onto this window ledge, Neo said, I can't do it. This is just not for me. That's the refusal of the call. And I bet you can look in your own life to see this. Like, has someone ever told you, you should start your own show? You should have your own podcast. You should write a book. You should do a TED Talk. And maybe you were like me before and said, what, who, me? Right? Like when Rita told me that my blog post could be a book. So you may have refused the call many times. But when you start to understand and when you start to look at all of these myths and you see that this heroine's journey of the soul is what we're all on, you recognize you can't actually stay away from your destiny forever. Destiny doesn't let us hide forever. Eventually, Neo does meet his mentor, Morpheus. And that is when he is offered the infamous blue pill or the red pill. It's a threshold moment where Neo has to choose, stay in the illusion or step into truth. And once he chooses truth, there's no going back. He enters into the point of no return. So I want you to think about your own life. Is there a person, a book, a dream, or even a ceremony that pushed you across the threshold? Who or what was your Morpheus? Type it in the chat. I'm super curious. Maybe I was the Morpheus. So, checking into the chat here, Shosha says, to leave my family and move to Europe alone to pursue a career in a new life. Ah, yes, that is a beautiful, heroic journey. It's what I've done as well. Kate Apples, lovely to have you here. Leaving the ordinary, toxic environment. Yes. I lived into to find something that made more sense. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, so we're going to go back to Neo and the Matrix. So eventually, Neo really does start to face these tests and trials, simulations, and even doubt. Remember when Morpheus sends Neo to see the oracle? And the oracle gives him a message, and Neo says, I'm not the one. And yet, when Morpheus is captured, Neo steps up anyway. That's the transformation. He discovers who he really is through action. Neo ends up being able to fight the agents and save Morpheus. Pretty cool stuff, right? And then comes the beautiful point in our heroic journey, the resurrection. Neo is resurrected, kissed back to life by Trinity. And then he returns to the world with new powers. This time, he returns as a liberator. Cool stuff. So can you see how your life has followed some of these heroic turning points? Yeah? I'm super curious. All right. Kate says, my Morpheus was a wonderful dominatrix who I randomly started chatting to on Tinder. Amazing. That's an amazing story. Oh, I can't wait to hear how that one plays out. So we go through several of these turning points and twists and turns. We actually go through several heroic journeys throughout our lives. It's not a one-time event. For me, another one of those calls came when I moved to the south of France. I walked away from that American TV career, and I started to feel this rumbling inside, the call to speak and share what I had been learning and living. And at first, I refused the call. I literally was like, oh, that must be my ego wanting to be seen again. But that feeling didn't go away. In meditation, it kept bubbling up. You have a message. Share it. And then came manifestation. I was a visiting professor at the International University of Monaco, teaching television industry, global brand management, and a positive psychology course called Be Who You Are. One of the graduates from the MBA program called me and said, we've just been granted a license to host our first TEDx. Will you be our speaker? That red circle became my threshold. I stepped onto that stage, and for the first time, publicly, I shared my story about my depression, the near-death out-of-body experience, and my truth. I've said it before, that talk wasn't perfect. Did you know that the clicker jammed and that in the edit, they cut one of the sentences in half? It didn't even make sense. But that talk went viral, 3.5 million views. It went viral because it was real. That moment transformed everything. It brought new book deals, investors, and the launch of the real self-love movement. That talk opened doors I could never have imagined. And just like Neo, I returned with medicine, not just for me, but for my community. So type in the chat, what is one turning point where you came out on the other side different, wiser, braver, more authentic? Even a small one counts. Drop it in the chat. I'm curious. And you might even look over the last few years with everything that you've lived since COVID to now. If you could look at those struggles and find one piece of wisdom, one medicine for other people, what would it be? Write that in the chat. You might inspire someone else here. I've said it before. Right now, we are living in a collective dark night of the ego. Structures are crumbling. AI is reshaping our world. Fear and disinformation are everywhere. And yet, this is our call to adventure. This is the moment to say yes to your heroine's journey, to cross the threshold into sovereignty, visibility, and impact, to stop hiding and to share our stories because they're medicine to someone else who needs to rise. Your story is your red pill. So in this collective dark night of the ego, what story are you ready to tell that could be medicine for the world? Type into the chat, I'm ready, if you feel the call. I'm super curious. So, hilarious. Kate Apple says, that was supposed to be Twitter, not Tinder. Okay, that changes the story a lot. That's very funny. Shosha says, accepting the idealized version of someone who betrayed me was not my fault, but my hope in their goodness. Wow, I totally relate to that. Wow. So that transformation could really help. And I think this is the lovely Nicole saying, surviving your third open heart surgery. Yes, Nicole, we need that story. And I'm hoping that I am going to publish that in the second edition of Time to Rise. If you'd like the easy button to becoming a published author, we're doing a second anthology, the second edition of Time to Rise. Each author gets to share a personal story of how they transformed. It's a great way to start branding yourself, to start getting visibility. We do all the heavy lifting. It includes author training and writing and storytelling training. So would love to have your story there. So how is this landing for you? Is this opening up some possibilities in your mind? Maybe you could envision how your story could become a book or a methodology, a course, or a retreat even. I am super excited to be able to support you wherever you are in that journey. Your first step is to take that quiz that I told you about. Take the Global Impact Scorecard. That's going to help you figure out what stage you're at in this heroine's journey, and it'll tell you which archetype you are. You'll get targeted next steps, and you'll also be invited to join me live on Zoom. On October 2nd and October 9th, I'm hosting a live masterclass on how to take your voice, your vision, and your mission global. And then when you're ready to implement with support, I invite you to step into the Global Impact Path, where we will develop your voice, write your story for resonance and trust, and shape your authentic personal brand so that opportunities start finding you. This is what we are up to. So here's the truth. You already have everything that you need inside you. The stories, the scars, the wisdom, they're not accidents. They're medicine. And in this collective moment of upheaval, your story is exactly what someone else is waiting for. Your whole life has been leading you here to this moment. And I'm not here to hype you up with false promises. I'm just here to remind you that your voice matters. Your presence is needed. And your impact is inevitable when you dare to step forward. So take the scorecard, come to the masterclass, and when you're ready, walk the Global Impact Path with me. We'll have some of my founding council members and coaches that will support you, and you'll get coaching from me. We'll help develop something that you can bring to the world in 2026 and beyond. Because the world doesn't need more noise. The world needs you. All right? So what have you all been typing into the chat so far? Anything else coming up? I love this. Shosha says, I'm ready, working on being willing and able. And you are so inspiring. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to know that this has been inspiring. That is part of my work here on the planet. Awesome. And Kelly Scott says, I'm ready. Perhaps being a product of where you came from is more of a superpower than a curse. Yes, Kelly. And I've told you this before, Kelly. Absolutely. Everything that has happened in your life, being a product of your past, has actually endowed you with superpowers that are meant to be shared. Now's your time, and I'm so grateful to walk this path with you. So in the movie, The Matrix, Trinity, she doesn't waffle. She doesn't even beg Neo to believe. She simply shows up, steady and unshakable. And she even says, like, you know what's true. You have to choose. And that's the energy I want to impart with you today. You already feel the call. You already know your story matters. The only question left is, will you stay in the old loop or will you step into the path of sovereignty, visibility, and global impact? Take the scorecard. You'll be able to save your seat for the masterclass. And when the doors open for the Global Impact Path, I invite you to step through, because this is your red pill moment. And on the other side is the life, the income, and the impact that you were born for. I look so forward to doing this with you. As we stand in 2025 in this collective dark night of the ego, we're not waiting for one savior. We are the many, a global constellation of luminaries. And each of us holds a piece of the medicine. When you share your story, you don't just rise, you light the way for others to rise too. So I'm inviting you, claim your space in this constellation. Start with the scorecard, join me live for the masterclass. And when the time is right, step onto the global impact path. Because this isn't about someday. This is about now. Your voice, your story. The world is waiting. Thank you so much for being with me today. I'm so excited that we got to share this time together. Very, very happy that this has created some sparks of resonance within you. I look forward to seeing you on the live masterclass and taking you through this 5-step ascension journey toward being a global luminary in your life. Have a good rest of your day. I will see you again soon. Many blessings to you.